Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. While the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has reiterated its readiness for the general elections, it has, however, stated that the conduct of the polls in security-challenged places in the northeast will be determined by security reports from the military. Joining us this morning to talk about the security situation in Nigeria for the year 2018 and what to expect in 2019 is security expert and former director at the Department of State Security, DSS, Mike Ejiofor. Good morning, Mr. Ejiofor.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us. So let's start off by discussing the security challenges that are facing Nigeria at this time. It's a multi-headed hydra. We have Boko Haram. We have the herdsman-farmer clashes that have occurred. We have your run-of-the-mill kidnappers, armed robbers. We have all kinds of security challenges. Let's start by talking about what the situation is now going into the elections and how tenable it is for us to have peaceful elections where Nigerians feel confident in coming out to vote. And obviously, we cannot forget Operation Python Downs Part 3. What is your view on all this?
Well, it's going to be a very challenging year. In 2018, you've listed the crisis and the challenges we had, and which the government is trying to address. But you know, the problems and the challenges we're expecting in 2019 because of the election, I believe are self-made, self-inflicted. This could be avoided because, you see, the way politicians go about their campaigns, we're expected that they should campaign on issues, but they are busy attacking each other, and we should not also forget that we have many political parties, almost 90 of them, but the prominent ones that are causing the real security challenges are the PDP and APC, and the reasons are obvious. APC wants to retain power, claiming that PDP has been in power for the past 16 years, and PDP, having left power for almost 4 years, want to come back. There's nothing wrong with that. That is democracy. But my fears are that, you know, as enshrined in our Constitution, the primary purpose and responsibility of government is security and welfare of the people. We should be able to, you cannot discuss politics, you cannot divorce politics from security. But at the same time, we cannot be playing politics with our security. That is exactly what is happening now. People are playing politics with our security, which is very, very dangerous. Security is a collective of the whole people, and it should not be left for government alone. But government, on its part, too, has promised in one of its cardinal programs to provide security for the people, and we are not there yet. You listed the challenges. You look at Borno, for instance. The Boko Haram is overwhelming the military. What are the reasons? You go to Zamfara, people are being killed daily. Herdsmen, I don't call them herdsmen, I call them terrorists, which I believe are an extension of Boko Haram, all over the country. And we are preparing for election. The problems are hydra-headed. And I think the earlier the government addresses the issue, the better for them as we are going into elections.
All right, Mr. Ejiofor, you just mentioned Section 42B of the Federal Constitution of Nigeria, which says that the primary responsibility of the government is to provide security and welfare. All right, if you were to rate the government in 2018, how well did they perform this particular duty? And have they done well enough to actually come into 2019 with a lot of hope and with a lot of belief that they can do more from what they did in 2018? How well do you think they actually performed these cardinal duties in 2018?
Well, you see, it's a difficult one for me to assess or score government on that. The people that should score government are Nigerians by casting their votes.
But you are in Nigeria. As a Nigerian, how would you score the government?
That's what I'm saying. Scoring of government comes during elections. For me, the reality on ground is different from what the government is saying, because we have a lot of security challenges. But I cannot score maybe over 10, over 100. That I cannot do. That will be done by Nigerians when they cast their votes. But the reality on ground is that we have a lot of security challenges. We must admit that. But government will come out to say they have done well in terms of security. So it's left for the people to judge whether the government has done well or they have not done well. But as a Nigerian, a patriotic Nigerian for that, and having served in government for over 35 years, we must be out to tell the truth by advising government. I think it's time we look for solutions to these problems. Maybe a stakeholders meeting. I tell you, my Reverend Father yesterday in the church did something I've never seen before. Called out he stood out there and asked people to score him and possibly profile solutions on how the church can move forward. I think the government should also adopt this measure by asking people to come out and see what they have done and what they have not done, advise the government on how to move forward. I think it's innovative and like a people's parliament, you know, getting stakeholders, people who are involved to come and score government and involve people in finding solutions. A situation where a group of people who hold this country hostage is not acceptable. Everybody must be involved to find solutions to these hydra-headed problems.
Well, preferring solutions have not been in short supply. Lots of people have preferred solutions, but this has not, you know, changed what we have on ground. In 2017, when you were kidnapped by what you call the Fulani gunmen, you described them as, you did say that there was a need to declare a state of emergency in the security subsector of the country. That wasn't done. So where do we begin to draw the line in preferring solutions and the government taking up the solutions?
Well, you see, taking Zamfara, for instance, most everybody becoming helpless. The governor claimed to have resigned as the chief security officer of the state. That is also not acceptable. You cannot accept a responsibility, a position without a responsibility. The governor is the chief security officer of the state. But you see, it brings us to another issue of, you know, the state police, preferring solutions. If the governors have their own state police, where they have control, I think it will be more effective. So I think it's late by the day as we are going into election. I've been calling for the amendment of our constitution for the state police to be created so that we take effective challenge, we have effective solutions to all these problems. The center with the police, argument by people is that the state police will be abused. And I ask, is the federal police not being abused? So if you must be accountable for your action. Whoever abuses the law is there to face it. I don't think that should be a reason. We must move forward. We must decentralize the center. We must see what we could restructure this country. The country is not working, and that is the truth.
We live in a country where a man of your position was kidnapped by what was widely reported by virtue of your position at the time as Fulani herdsmen. We've also had in recent times the high-profile tragic murders of Major General Idris Akali and Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade. What does that say to us regular Nigerians if men of at your level are becoming victims of crime? And when you were kidnapped by those herdsmen, as it was reported, you have now referred to them as terrorists. What did you observe as a security expert about their mindset and their motivations?
You see, it's a very big challenge. If high-profile military officers are kidnapped and killed, that will show you the state of insecurity in the country. And in the Northeast, for instance, Borno, for instance, the governor has also come out to admit that the situation is worsening by the day. Our military installations are being attacked. And what are the reasons? We have in place the multinational joint task force, and they seem not to be effective anymore. And we need to change tactics. We need to change our modus operandi. It's not just changing, and the government should also come out to equip the military. I think they're ill-equipped. They're not fully functional as it's supposed to be, because I don't see why the Boko Haram will continue to attack military installations. But, coming at this time, these are the people who don't believe in democratic governance, and they want to make a statement, instill fear in the people, and that's exactly what they are doing, and I think they are succeeding. The government should look for ways to see how this problem will be solved, because once you have these high-profile attacks, the confidence of the people will wane. Nigerians will be afraid. People will not come out to vote. They will ask you, why are we voting when the issues that were promised has not been fulfilled? And that's a very big challenge.
All right, Mr. Ejiofor, we've been talking about the problems. What is the immediate solution to the security challenges bedeviling Nigeria? What can we do to begin to gain back public confidence and also secure lives and property? What are the immediate steps that the government can take that can begin to restore order back to Nigeria and to troubled places?
You see, the issue of security is not something you can say, let us make a quick fix. You have to, like I said, the military is not very well equipped to tackle these challenges. So, are you going to order equipment, armament from now? These are not things to buy off the shelf. So the immediate solution, I think, for now, is to get the people involved. Convene a stakeholders meeting. Government can take that initiative, not the one being taken by individuals. We talk on TV, security experts, security strategists, everybody profiling solutions. But have they been collated by government to be worked upon? So I think the government should take the initiative, call the people, major stakeholders, and say, how do we move forward? I tell you that as elections approach, it's going to be worse, because people are going to make campaigns, hate speeches, and it will generate conflicts. Like you said in your intro, INEC is charged with conduct of election. They are not supposed to provide security. So the people should be, in fact, a major political stakeholders meeting should be convened to talk to the politicians in particular, to adopt measures, to look at issues. Campaigns should be issue-based, not personal attacks on individual. Buhari is not effective. Buhari is that. Atiku did not travel to US. Is it going to govern Americans? It's going to govern Nigerians. These are no issues. Tell us what you want to do for the country, and people will vote for you. So I think that the government should immediately convene this stakeholders meeting, political stakeholders meeting, where people will be addressed, Nigerians will be addressed on how to go about our election. Otherwise, INEC will be helpless in conducting the elections.
Well, talking about solutions, Mr. Ejiofor, there are those who have called for the resignation or sack of the service chiefs. As a solution to this, do you subscribe to these calls?
You see, unfortunately, for me, if you continue to do the same thing, the same way, you will not expect a different result. Some of the service chiefs have overstayed. Some of them, their tenure have expired, and they are still being retained. So I think maybe it's time we also need to try new hands. But because of politics, I think the government does not have the political will to do this. That's why I have also been saying that we should not play politics with our security. Let's try new hands. I think it will help.
Would you consider the launch of Operation Python Dance 3 as playing politics with our security, considering the protests by stakeholders saying that there are no security threats in the southeast region and that Operation Python Dance 2 still leaves such a bad taste in the mouths of many? Can you understand why the federal government would initiate such a measure and risk alienating the voters in that zone?
As far as I'm concerned, that dance is not necessary. You remember when I said during the Operation Python dance in the Southeast that it was not necessary, that was a dance of shame. I still maintain that position. We have a lot of security. Why are we dancing when you have a lot of security? Deploy the military to the northeast, Benue, Zamfara. These are where we have serious security challenges. So why are we dancing in all that? I look at this as just a show of force, you know, a rehearsal for the upcoming election. The dance is not necessary.
All right, since we're talking about election, one thing that with 44 days to go to the general elections, all right, next month, all right, how do we prevent and how do we prepare for prevent electoral violence and also prepare against electoral violence?
Well, electoral violence can be curbed, but it depends on our politicians because all these are politically generated crises. If the politicians can play by the rule, I don't think there will be any violence. But I don't see this election coming without violence because of the stakes. The stakes are really high, and I ask myself some questions. Are you coming to serve? Or is there any other particular interest you have that you must come and let people die? You remember what former President Jonathan said, that his political interest is not worth anybody's blood. So if we must be prepared to serve, we will not allow the people to die, because when the people die, who are you going to govern? Who are you going to rule? Our politicians are causing us a lot of problems, and I think they should have some self-examination.
Mr. Ejiofor, in recent years, we have seen over-militarization of our polling units and over-policing of these polling units, especially as there were state elections. But going into a general election, we cannot just afford those numbers of officers manning polling units or securing the election. But there are security concerns. Which areas in the country do you think that we should be focusing on? Are there areas we should be focusing on security-wise?
Of course, there are many areas we have to focus our interest. We have Kano, we have Rivers, Akwa Ibom. These are areas that we need very strong security presence, not military presence. Because, you know, these are states that you have, that the stakes are very high, and they might turn out violent. Zamfara is also inclusive in these areas of interest. So many of them, and as time goes on, maybe we'll continue to review them.
What about Delta and Bayelsa, where we have seen militancy threatening to recoup and resume hostilities? Do you think we should also be worried about those states?
For Delta, I don't see any major problem because what we have is an inter-party crisis in Delta State. That's between the candidates of the APC. But talking generally about the election, I think elections in Delta, even though stakes are high, it doesn't seem to me that there will be a major threat. But I've highlighted the states that I feel are high-stakes states, Kano, and the reasons are obvious. You look at the personalities involved. The president has a major support. President Buhari has a major support. Kwankwaso also has a major support. So these are the major personalities that will play out in that place. You go to Rivers, you see that Wike is in control of the state, and APC also want to show presence. The same thing if you go to Akwa Ibom, for instance. You see the effect of the former governor, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and the governor. Two of them are major personalities that will determine what will happen. during the election. So this is why I say that these states, if you go to Oyo, for instance, those are issues, states that can, be handled. Zamfara, for instance, APC doesn't have a candidate. So the likelihood of the party joining another party to present a candidate is there. And a PDP also try to put, that Zamfara, for instance, has been in control of APC since 1999. The same thing with Lagos. So these are areas, since PDP was unseated in the 2015 election, PDP will also look at some areas they want to play surprises and install their own government. So that's why I say the stakes are high.
Yes, but these states you have mentioned are where we have seen political gladiators and political clashes between the two major parties trying to show force. But in Delta State in particular that I mentioned earlier, militants have threatened to resume hostilities.
Well, I would not. I'm from the Niger Delta. I'm from Delta State precisely. I would not want a situation. I would rather advise that resumption of hostilities at this time is not necessary. So if it is real, the government should go out and engage them, because if you bring the Niger Delta hostilities now, prices of oil are falling. And if you allow hostilities to come out there, and then the budget is as bad as it is, it would not perform, because our income will be affected. So the government should do everything possible to ensure that production of oil is not disrupted, because we're on a mono economy.
All right, all right, Mr. Ejiofor, looking at it closely, has the government done enough, or are they doing enough to ensure that these hotspots we've just mentioned will not witness electoral violence?
I believe that the security agencies are doing their own threat analysis and appraisals. They are in a better position to do such. But for us, in the public domain, we have to advise and say that this is what we have noticed. For them to they have a way of doing their own appraisals and threat analysis. I believe that these states too that I've mentioned will come under their radar.
What is the root cause of the conflict in Zamfara State? And do you support the calls for a declaration of a state of emergency, which are backed by the Governor Yari of Zamfara State? Do you think that that is the appropriate response?
I don't see how that will solve the problem, except if he calls for state of emergency, then he should first resign as governor. He's not just calling for a state of emergency. You call for state of emergency for what? That means he has been overwhelmed. If he feels he cannot govern anymore, then he should resign, and the deputy governor should take over. I don't see how that will bring any solution to the problems.
Let's break some of the security challenges down. For terrorism, we are hearing the People's Democratic Party candidate saying that, purposeful leadership, and I quote his words, would bring an end to insurgency. Do you feel, or do you think in your own expertise that purposeful leadership alone will bring an end to terrorism?
Of course, why not? Purposeful leadership. Leadership, but you cannot be talking about leadership without followership. So, purposeful leadership means engaging the people, asking for solutions to problems. And I don't see the government doing that now, and that was where I started from, that major stakeholders meeting should be convened by government to see what can be done. And, at times too, I sympathize with government because there are scarce resources to purchase arms. So we should also come down from our high horse as a country, go to other countries that have been assisting, tell them to assist us, because terrorism is a global threat. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. And we should do more of consultation, seek for assistance with neighboring countries and other donor agencies to help us, because the money is not there to purchase arms, and that is the truth.
Despite the fundings we have seen going into this fight against insurgency, perhaps do you think that corruption has a role to play in all of this and why we have not yet won the war against terrorism?
Well, corruption is a threat to national security. There no two ways about it. Corruption is a major threat, and this government has come out that is fighting corruption. The corruption the government is fighting, as far as I'm concerned, I must be objective, is selective. If it's not selective, everybody must be brought to book, irrespective of your political leanings or their affiliations. I have said this right from inception of this government. I advised pursuing people to recover money will not solve problems. We need to build institutions. In fact, I have advocated that there should be a way of, government encouraging people who have established cases. Ask people, these are cases against you. Why don't you forfeit this to government? A plea bargain, kind of. And I think it will achieve results more because our legal process is tedious, lengthy, and we might not achieve results. What we are supposed to do is to building institutions. And I've said this, I want to repeat, that, the provision of TSA and BVN, these are measures of building institutions to check corruption. But, Nigerians are fond of circumventing issues. What people do now, they collect money, buy up the dollars in the market, and store the money in the house so that it's not tracked in the bank. So what have we succeeded in doing? Creating fear, and people are just there stacking money in their houses, exposing themselves to danger, because very soon we'll also begin to hear that houses are being attacked by hoodlums, where they have information that monies are stacked in the house. So we need to strengthen our institutions, not individuals. One man, one person cannot make it in this country. We need a collective effort of the people to build Nigeria.
Mr. Ejiofor, when you look at the stance of this administration concerning the fight against insurgency, over time they've said, we've won this war, technically won this war. In the 2018 New Year message to the country, the president said, we have long beaten Boko Haram. But in his 2019 New Year message, he did say, let me just quote that. He said, we have some challenges, including security, and we would combat them. Do you feel that this administration is beginning to realize that they are not winning this war? Is the president backtracking his stance?
Not really backtracking, but I must commend the president for admitting that we'll have security challenges. But you see some government spokesmen coming out to say we have technically defeated Boko Haram. The realities on ground is contrary to what they are saying. And if you continue to deceive the people, they are there to judge you. So I must commend the president for at least admitting that we'll have security. If you admit there's a problem, then you start looking for solutions. But if you continue to rub it on the surface that nothing is happening, whereas the realities on ground show the contrary, then people lose confidence in government. So I think the governor of Borno State also admitted that the situation is worsening. The governor of Borno State also admitted that the situation is worsening. So I think an admission like that tries to build confidence in the people instead of telling people lies.
Mr. Ejiofor, let's take a look at our security architecture. We have listed the litany of problems that we are facing that are not abating. What more can be done to improve and strengthen our security architecture from the center? And are you in agreement with those advocating for the creation of a state police? Is this the necessary measure that we need?
Well, I have profiled some solutions before. The police, for instance, is charged with maintenance of internal security. But what do we have? Pending when a constitution is amended and state police is created, I have advocated that the zonal postings of rank and file of the police, from inspector down, where they should be posted to their zones, and we have senior officers from other zones manning that particular zone. I think it will help, because what it means is that the people are conversant with their area. They know what it takes. For instance, you put somebody from Medugri to Bayelsa. The man has never seen water before. Or you take somebody from Bayelsa and post to Sokoto. The language barrier is there. So we need to do some of this rejigging of our security architecture, especially the police. And police should also try as much as possible not to be partisan in their approach to issues. The present Nigerian police leadership is overtly partisan, and it's not good for our democracy. In addition to this zonal posting, I also want to recommend that out of about 400,000 policemen where we have, over 120 are deployed to security protection of VIPs. So I want to advise you, the IG did mention some time ago that they were going to be withdrawn. And after a while, these people are not withdrawn. And that is why our leaders, people in charge in government, are not bothered, because they are protected by police. So let all these policemen be withdrawn and let them feel what Nigerians are feeling. They should feel what Nigerians are about. Because one individual will be moving about with more than 10 policemen. What for?
All right, Mr. Ejiofor, you've been mentioning this.
The police should take, yes.
You've been just talking about this, and a lot of people are accusing the government of not having the political will to have probably tackled this security issue. Like, for example, you just mentioned the fact that what the IG has spoken in the time past about redeploying and actually bringing back some of this policemen that they've been put out there to actually guard the VIPs. And also they say that 30,000 people were deployed to actually probably control things and activities in Ekiti State during the elections that happened just a few months ago, but only 2,000 were sent to the northeast. Since it's almost clear that there is no political will from the government, how do we go about this, or what's your message to the government of the day on how to actually turn this particular narrative around?
Well, I think, without repeating myself, the best way to do this is to ensure that police is non-partisan. They are the lead agency in maintaining law and order, not the military. You see, I travel by road most of the time, and if you go between, in fact, that reminds me, if you go between Okene and Ukpila, you have more than 20 police checkpoints. And what are they doing? They are busy looking at your vehicle particulars, extorting money from the people. We agree that that area is dangerous. Between Lokoja and Okene, that used to be the den of kidnappers, you don't see policemen there that way. You see military vehicles parked on the road. You see policemen standing there observing what is happening. But between, and I want to call on the Inspector General of Police to use this medium to advise that people travel with pains between Okene and Ukpila. These are people who should have been deployed, ordinarily deployed to major security challenge areas.
The Fulani headers, Fulani farmer clashes, farmer clashes, is one that is dear to you. The government over the years has refused to proscribe them as terrorists, which you have personally said because of your encounter with them when you were kidnapped. Do you still maintain that stance? I mean, we've seen reduced clashes between farmers and herders. Do you still think that it should be proscribed as terrorists?
As far as I'm concerned, there are no farmers-herders clashes. There are no farmers-herders clashes. These people are just terrorists expanding the frontiers of Boko Haram, kidnapping people, extorting money, and buying more arms. We should get this thing clear. They are not herders, but you know they can hide under the headsmen to do what they are doing. I've said this in times from experience. When I was kidnapped, because I need to recount some of the issues, you know. When I was kidnapped, the real herders, if they see these gunmen, because they are gunmen, they will take to their heels and abandon their cattle. And the kidnappers will say, please, let's move, because these people go and inform the police. So they couldn't be herders for God's sake. For crying out loud, these are not herders. These are just terrorists expanding the frontiers of Boko Haram. And it is left for government, whether it is proscribed or it is called a terrorist or declared a terrorist organization, it does not solve the problem. What will solve the problem is the political will for government to arrest these people and take drastic action to stop them from, because they operate virtually in the forest. And I think I want to also see that, commend the government around that Kogi axis, because it was almost a daily affair. Well, I think we should see how we can relate with Kogi's government and some of the security agencies there to see how the issue, it's not that it's not there, but it has reduced to the barest minimum. And I think that's what government should be addressing itself with. Collaboration between the various state governments and the state security agencies are indeed very, very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Ejiofor, for all your insights and for ending on a positive note. At least we have one bastion in Kogi State of security agencies working out effectively. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's time now for a short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by the National Deputy Chairman, South-South of the People's Democratic Party, Brother Emmanuel Ogidi. Stay with us.